You made me a while.
Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for being here. This is our first study session of the month. Adam, do you want to go, since he's got a brief report, and then we'll hear from Monica.
So January kind of on par with the past couple months, call volume wise. Still higher than the previous year. So we had 187 for total 911s. When you factor in our MIHs, which have really taken off, we're up to 317. I'll still report the mobile integrated health, but as of the 24th of January, that became its own service line. So one of my full-time paramedics actually transferred into that role. So I'm not taking ambulance out of service most of the time for these MIHs anymore. That will have its own vehicle eventually. He's still using an ambulance right now, but it's not one of our mainline trucks that's actually taking those out. Looking down the list, everything time-wise I'm happy with. Those median back in service times are still higher than I'd like them to be. But if you look at the second page, when we transferred, or we took 9 to Union, 3 to Regional, 1 to Carl, when you factor in all those extended back in service times, that's why that number's higher. If you're just looking at our back in service time from when we take to Paris, we're sitting around 13 minutes. So anything under 15 I'm happy with. But that extended time is when you factor in those longer transports. Working down the list, nothing really out of the ordinary. Winter storm wrap up, we were overly prepared, so luckily we didn't have any major issues. We had one patient we couldn't get to by ambulance, but threw him in a pickup truck and transported up the road a little bit. Yeah.
Pickup truck?
That is the detail.
I'm gonna report you to the health department.
So it was a rural address. There was just some drifting on the road. The ambulance couldn't get through, but luckily one of the volunteer fire department guys from Oliver is also one of my medics. He got his pickup there. So we had he picked up the ambulance personnel, and it was a matter of less than a mile getting them to the ambulance. So no adverse outcomes. Everything worked out well. The rest of the time we had no issues. We worked with the county on a couple of calls, but everything, I think everybody worked well together. Like I said, we were overly prepared, and luckily it wasn't as bad as they were forecasting. Any questions, comments for me?
I have a question.
Yeah, Lisa.
On the mobile health, how far out are you going on those distance-wise? The
Right
whole
now,
county or only the coverage that of the
No,
ambulance
we've-
service?
we've got one in Ridge Farm right now that we've dealt with pretty extensively. We've had requests to go to Clinton, Indiana. We haven't crossed state lines yet. We're still figuring that piece out. I'm not saying we won't, because we have, the hospital itself has clinics in Terre Haute, so I am working on getting us Indiana license as well, so we can operate into that area a little bit. MIH has its own licensing, so that doesn't really fall in my bucket, but that's something I'm working on for this year. Not that it's gonna affect any of our operations, it's just if we have something on the state line, we can, it's better to be over licensed than under licensed by all means.
Do your license plate regulate you? You don't have that kind of license?
No, it's all EMS systems, so. But I think the furthest south we've gone is between Marshall and West Union. I think we went to Martinsville for an MIH. So we've responded to a pretty big, most of them are in Edgar County, but we do have some of those outliers that we're working in as we can.
Thank you.
Like I said, any of those outliers, either Nick Thomas, which is our MIH nurse practitioner, or Cody Moko, which most of you know, is now doing the full-time MIH coordinator. And we won't take an ambulance to those. We'll either take a hospital van or they take their personal vehicles. We're not taking those assets out of the county. Still having trouble with parts on trucks. I still have one out of service awaiting parts when they can't give an ETA. So.
That's the four-wheel drive?
No, that's the crew cab.
Crew cab.
So I don't have any four-wheel drive right now,
I
but
guess I thought it was four.
I've been doing this 15 years. I've only got an ambulance stuck in the snow once, so most of the time they're heavy enough where we don't really need that four-wheel drive function. Any other questions for me?
Thank
I
you.
don't- I guess I don't have a question for Adam, but the folks up north, have you heard any comments or anything on the Northern Edgar County ambulance? Because we haven't, Jeremy hadn't been here for a good while.
I talked to him here and there, and I see a couple of the EMTs. I'm not sure they're EMTs. Anyway, they're folks, and he seems to indicate they're doing well. I will remind him that we would like to start seeing him. Okay?
I just,
No.
we haven't heard anything, and, you know, they're supposed to report, but I just wanted to make sure everything was going fine.
Okay.
We've been doing quite a few intercepts with them when they're bringing patients this way. They request us to meet them halfway for
Mhm.
advanced care. I've actually got a truck up there right now. Sounds like they had a couple calls in a row, so they just went on scene.
So when they're out, then you're their backup and you
Yeah.
go handle. Okay. I just wanna make sure everything was going fine out there.
Okay. Thanks. Monica, you wanna come up here and
Marissa.
go over this program?
Jeff, actually, excuse me, it's Marissa.
Oh, it's, what did I say?
It's the mask.
Melissa?
It's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
It's okay.
I was, you put the mask.
Geez,
Marissa,
I
thank you.
know.
we got two brooms here or what?
Hey, she's not better looking than I am.
Well, it's just those everybody else.
More than
Thank you.
practice. Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks a lot.
I need a few copies. I didn't make, do you guys have them or you might not?
Yeah, they're in the-
Okay.
It's one in your packet.
I've got one.
Okay. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Marissa Beck. I'm the Director of Environmental Health at the Health Department. Only reason I'm here today is the state passed some amendments to the cottage food law. They were effective January 1st of 2022. And it basically, in summary, means that anyone can bake baked goods out of their home and sell them for profit, and that's now considered legal. So all this ordinance does is gives us at the health department authority to do an inspection if there's a foodborne illness outbreak or if there is a consumer complaint, that we can actually visit their home on their private property to do an investigation. Section 1 is completely out of the act itself. So we didn't, I think there's maybe one clause in there that we changed. If they do not utilize a municipal water supply, then they're required to do a test. Let's see. They have to pay a $50 fee each year for registration and fill out a registration form. We give them a registration number, and that's basically our part, unless there is more in terms of the FBI outbreak or any complaints that we might get. So, and this is not for, grandma who bakes a cake for for a birthday party. This is more for the people that have an actual business, where they, bake brownies or cookies or cupcakes, cakes, that sort of thing.
So this is basically baked goods?
Yes, baked
Now,
goods.
and that it's pretty, I'm reading time temperature controlled, so it's not for that, it's just for
Correct, they
baked.
can't do anything that's time temperature control. Yep, it's just your baked goods. There's a whole list of things that they cannot do in the act.
So it's not bake sales, but it's if I hire his wife to make my kids cupcakes.
Correct, bake sales are exempt from the act.
Don't get
They're
me
a
in
charitable
trouble.
event, and we have no authority over those.
How many of these operations do we have in the county roughly? 2, 10, 20?
That I know of, I
Yeah.
would roughly ballpark to be probably 15 or 20.
Okay.
We have 2 registered right now, so
Two
if the ordinance would pass, then that gives us the ability to be able to register them, just so that we know who they are and what they're making, and make it fair across the board for everyone, because like I said, we just have 2 right now that are
So
registered.
if this passes, they're required to register,
Yes,
okay? And the only time you go, you're not gonna make an annual inspection, you only go out when there's a illness or a complaint.
correct. Yes, no, we do not do an annual inspection, and per the act, they're required to register with us. So,
The state's requiring.
correct, the state
We're not
requires them,
requiring-
right, the state
I mean-
requires them to register, but we just added that into ordinance, just,
Right.
you know, to be
Okay.
sure, but
Do they pay to register?
they do, there's a
$50.
$50
$50?
fee.
Trying to figure out how she's gonna con me into paying that.
Are you registered now?
She is, I'm not.
Okay.
I don't
How many
even
do we
think
have that are not registered that are doing it? Oh gosh, I'd say probably 15 or 20 that I know of that are actively doing it that are not registered.
So if they go to the farmer's market and set up, they have to have the statement that's in D, but they don't have to actually show a license.
Correct. Yes, they should have the registration number that's provided by us on their label. So each thing that they package has to have that label on it. But they do have to have the placard saying that it was made in a home kitchen, not subject to public health inspection.
Questions? We'll be asked to vote on this on Wednesday. It's on the agenda. Okay. Thanks, Marissa.
Okay, no problem, that's okay. Yeah, honestly, it happens a lot. Alrighty, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Andy?
Haven't heard anything back from Sycamore yet on the jail. I thought I'd hear something last week, but,
Hopefully you hear something
yeah,
by
soon.
Wednesday.
Yeah, I'll get on and see if I can push him more on it. So other than that,
Dusty Rose in the courthouse. One of the problems with them waiting to do us is they couldn't, if they'd hit it earlier, it probably would have been better,
okay,
because it's okay, but it's not great.
okay,
And then the city's out there working again.
around the
They
outside.
did, yeah, and somehow maybe we can take the mayor and have some coffee or somebody and maybe get them to, since they're doing that mainly really early in the morning or late in the evening, what they're doing is they're throwing
in.
off, they used to truck the snow down here. And they're not doing that, so when if they get the streets sort of clean that are sidewalks
They're doing that
suffer.
right now.
on the sidewalk.
So maybe we can ask them or talk to them about,
At least that area, go that
yes,
block there.
yeah, but I know everybody's doing their best and working hard.
They're
I
doing
mean,
that
that's
this
not the
morning.
question, but
All the
it's,
snow away this morning.
Were they?
yeah, but of course we had people out there parked now,
Yeah,
so the effectiveness.
And when you say if they'd done it sooner, I mean,
Well,
this
I'm
was a
talking-
tough one, because it started raining, then it iced, then it snowed.
Well, but what I'm saying is that it crusted, I think they could have removed more stuff had they started earlier. But, you know, I don't do that for a living, but,
didn't we used to have somebody that, would clear all the side, had a little push, a lawnmower type of thing that cleared all the sidewalks right around the square and then up and down all the businesses?
In the city, isn't
The city, I mean, it's not our responsibility, didn't the city used to
They
do
had
that?
a little John Deere thing,
Yeah, they
cabin
didn't-
on it.
They didn't do that this time.
Yeah, I saw them doing it.
go ahead.
Yeah, I saw the city using that John Deere tractor with a blower on it Friday morning.
Okay.
All right, yeah.
I noticed the
Clean the
bank
sidewalks.
to the
Yeah.
north, well, they really got on that, and that was, it's, what we need to do is wind up with a product like Prospect wound up with.
They, and I understand why they didn't do it, but Saturday or Sunday, someone should have been out doing it before Monday, when you got all the cars parked, and then it makes it more difficult,
Yeah.
but,
Right, and I did talk to the mayor,
yeah,
and I said I wasn't, you
yeah.
know, I'm not complaining, but, you know, when they get a chance, it'd be
Yeah.
nice, because we had the same problem up in Crispin. They backed off about 6, 7 feet from the sidewalks, and that'll work. And then when you do get people parking there, you got one lane of traffic,
Right.
so.
In years past, they always done it, whenever a snow come, they done it that night. But,
We got right after.
and I remember one time reading in the paper, because of overtime issues, that's why they kinda backed off, but I just think it needs to be done
Well,
a little better.
we just need to coordinate something. It may not happen again this year. In fact, I pray it doesn't, but I mean, for the future, there has to be some way we can work something out.
Okay. I'll talk to
Anything else?
Can't think of anything offhand.
We're gonna talk about the grant. We've got to approve that grant proposal we talked about at the last meeting, and we said that it had increased to somewhere between 425 to 450, and it actually turned out to be 434. So that's on the agenda, and I want to make sure that you were aware of that. Yes,
Ray did get out to the ESDA building.
Right.
Got the faucets fixed, and he said her hot water heater isn't working.
right, he's going out.
He was gonna wait till, Scotty Blair was on vacation. When he got back, the two of them were gonna go put the water heater in.
Okay, because that's my understanding.
Well, yeah, well, he said, I might have a license plumber with me to do it, and I said, absolutely, and Scotty's good, so.
That's fine.
He talked like he might look at the front door too.
He did.
He did.
Well, he's going to, he told me that too. And then we're gonna look for a solid core wood heavy door, so they could, if there's a problem in the future, we don't have to take it down to a metal genius to work on it, so, at any rate. Dan?
I haven't talked to Andrew, but had a person complaining about leaving a phone call on the thing on the door, and Andrew not returning the call 2 or 3 times, so I called her and she took care of it, so she's a little slow on returning some of the calls.
We had a meeting with her last week that went very well on upgrading the IT and doing some other things, and Lisa was good enough to be there, and it was a good meeting,
Okay, good.
very positive,
Good.
okay?
She is a little slow returning calls, so I took care of that basically. Other than that, no problem. I'll call her today, see how it went with the snow and all that, so.
Russ, do you have anything? Carl?
As far as the dogs pound, I was out there Saturday and Linda said that they were plumb full.
Yeah,
And
well,
some lady had called and said she's bringing another dog out, and Linda said, I don't know where I'm gonna put her, but I'll deal with it, but
okay.
she said normally this time of year they're not, but
Yeah.
they were really, and you know, with the snow and everything last week, they had a lot of dogs outside, and
Yeah, I don't like that. No, they
But-
did.
No,
they had a lot of straw there.
but this guy was actually wanting to adopt a dog, so at least
Yeah.
it was good, so. Yeah, I know it's,
A lot of dogs out in the cold.
But Dusty had come out and piled the stone, that
Okay,
maybe,
good.
it looked like he'd done a good job for the animal shelter, he didn't do quite enough at the ESDA, but
okay, good. No, I don't like dogs out either, but what are you gonna do? At least they have straw and food and water, so.
Okay, next, you, Carl. I'm gonna give this to Augie for the file, but the sheriff and I received the bargaining unit roster, and I wondered if you could send, that's for you to have as a permanent file, and if you could send that to Carl, I'd appreciate it. Do you wanna look at it briefly, just to see what
I'll
they've
just make him a
done?
copy before we leave.
Yeah,
yeah,
all right, I just wanna make sure I did that. Go ahead, Carl, I'm sorry.
that's all I have. I don't have anything on the sheriff's department.
And I haven't heard anything yet on where they're at. You know, that's what Andy was talking about as far as renovation and so
Oh.
forth. Hang on, I've gotta take this in just a second. Do you have anything, Phil?
Nope.
Lisa, you wanna talk about your stuff?
Oh, yeah. First of all, Jeff and I went to the Farm Bureau annual meeting. We're recognized, waved our hand. Lots of politicians there, because it's that year, signed several petitions. Solar ordinance, Tim Gilbert sent me a really good detailed letter with suggestions for changes. I'm impressed and really pleased. It was down to, I needed some commas. And of course, there were some things I had no clue about, and he had us add a couple of different paragraphs, kind of cover ourselves, since some of the state legislation is a little bit vague, that if it changed, it wouldn't necessarily negate the validity of our ordinance or any contracts with a solar company. So he really tightened it up, which is what I thought I was gonna get from Farm Bureau. And Farm Bureau, their comments were not detailed about the contract itself, but some of the language or some of the impact. So it is back to Wyatt to give to Illinois Farm Bureau. And I sent a thank you to Tim for his focused work on it. So we are looking at just moving our timeline to March to do a public hearing. So please refresh my memory. On the wind ordinance draft, we had that posted to our website so people could access it.
And that's what we wanna do too. We probably could have maybe forced it a little this time, but that wouldn't have given anybody much of a chance to look at it. And that way hopefully we can post it a week or two before, and that we're gonna have a public hearing before our meeting. And that way people can voice their opinions or at least have an opportunity to, right?
Mhm. I don't think there was any big changes or anything compared to what you already received. It was more just tightening it up. But if you want a new copy, I emailed it to Josh too, that he could print some off for us today, or I can email it, whatever you want me to do.
Well, you might as well, unless you don't, we could wait till we hear back from Wyatt and then get it out in 2 or 3 weeks. That way, you know which one's which. You wanna tell them about our personnel policy? We're kinda discussed it a little bit, but we don't have much choice.
What do you want me to say? Other than the bellwether guy is not going to be, you'd already said that. The bellwether person is not gonna be able to focus on it and have a meeting until April. However, we are needing to have a meeting with department heads as soon as Ross gets us a little bit of information about changing or upgrading how we do email, capability to text using your computers and change your email so that it is more secure
And reliable.
and reliable.
Yes, and that will take care of some of the problems that the chief judge has mentioned to me and Angie, and take care of some of the sporadic problems we've got, and make sure that we capture everything in the past and archive everything in the future, so that there's not an issue. So.
And so Ross's part and what Ross is looking at is a big deal. But when it comes down to having a department head meeting, it's letting you know how the impact is.
We want them to have an opportunity to ask questions. It may add some expense to 911 and to the health department, and possibly even out here at the highway department. So we just wanna make sure everybody's on the same page and has a chance to ask questions and is satisfied with the system. Okay? Okay. The agenda, you have it in your manila envelope there. Big thing, Michael Freeze is gonna make a presentation to update you on the jail, the Vance School, and the courthouse. And he's gonna have some material that hopefully will help us make some decisions here in the near future, but he will be here on Wednesday morning at our regular meeting. Okay? If I get anything preliminary from him, I understand he has a new jail layout based on, predicated on the north side that includes the city and 911 in their needs. So we'll see what happens there. Let's see, I already talked about food license, or food operations. Resolution to approve energy performance contract. That's that one I just talked about. Extend the moratorium. Are there any other questions? Augie, do you have any comments as to anything?
Yes, if it's all right.
Absolutely.
If you'll notice, you did not get your claims report. And I sent out an email last week, but so what happens is the week before the board meeting, we coordinate with the treasurer and we close the claims process down. And then that allows time for reports to be generated, checks to be cut, what have you. Well, since we closed last Wednesday at 11:30, we did not close out the claims because we were aware that there were a few others that were planning to get theirs in, and the normal time is noon on Wednesday before the board meeting. So we left it open, and now, as we speak, we're closing out the claims, reports being generated. When I get the report, I'll email it to you. Might be today, might be tomorrow, but you will have hard copies Wednesday morning. That's just weather related. There's nothing we could have done about that.
Thank you. We need just an election deal. Do you want to talk about, how many do the committee, whether you're Republican or Democrat, the precinct committee person, how many do they need on theirs?
10.
10?
10.
Okay. And we need 25, and everybody else has what they need, right? So, and that's the first day to file is the 7th,
March 7th.
and the last day is the
14th.
14th. Just to review. Don, as far as accrual of last year, he may be done or close to it. Anyway, you'll have an updated fund status for Fund 100 as of Wednesday morning. And I didn't print one up for you, I printed one up for Carl because it's not fully developed yet because of what, we don't have any of the bills on yet for this month and receipts and all that, so it wouldn't have been accurate anyway. So hopefully we'll have a fairly updated one for you from November 30th of last year, so you can see where we wound up the year pretty much. So, other than that,
Andy, I got a question.
Okay.
You said you were trying to contact Sycamore to come up about the jail.
Yeah, I met with him once,
Okay, all right.
and then he came with a vendor he asked him to get in, I coordinated with Jeff Wood, and they got.
So someone has been.
They have been back.
Okay,
to look
I
at
thought
it.
maybe you hadn't made any contact at
No,
all.
no.
Okay.
We met with Larry Gower at Sycamore, and he talked, at that point, he said, I should be able to get you a estimate.
So they've been up there to look and
Yeah, I'm
met
expecting
with the sheriff
anytime, yeah.
and they know what we're wanting
Yeah.
done.
and they felt fairly
He felt
confident.
that he could get to it. He goes, this actually comes at a good time. We just wrapped up a couple of big projects.
Yeah.
We're waiting to start some others. He goes, we might be able to do it in relatively quick time.
Okay, good.
And they don't have to reinvent the wheel because they know what they
All
already
the-
did, yeah.
You know,
Right.
all the stuff that they used. He goes, we got all the, I got all
What they
that."
use downstairs can be
Yep.
used upstairs.
On that note, I don't know whether you saw over here to the east, but the trusses are in for the
Oh, really?
corner. They also, on their own, had it jeweled. So they're imminently, you know, obviously the snow's gonna slow
Right.
them up, but,
Usually,
this,
yeah, Julie, that's.
yeah, it's only
that's all
good for
yeah.
X amount of days, so. At any rate, I just wanna let you know that, I did call Scott and brought him up to date on what I just told you here, so we're looking forward to that starting. They need 4 or 5 days to put it up, and it'll be done. And then we've got the plan to go from there, alright? We had a highway, or a airport preliminary planning session for the main runway. They're gonna get it all ready, they, you know, talked to our engineers, it was phones mainly, and they'll figure that out, what exactly we need and where, and finish the design. The state commented on a couple of things they wanted. It would be bid out about a year from now, and construction on that would be in the spring of '23. Just to bring you up to date on that. Yes.
You get the core samples done out of oil.
Yeah, yeah. Michael's hoping to have a preliminary report on the core samples. They also FOIA'd any reports on the plant just immediately north. There were some test wells that they had in there for, I don't know whether it was the EPA, but somebody had some test wells in there. And we wanted a reading off of that to make sure there was no contamination in the area. So they've done that too.
That's the Coca-Cola plant, it used to be.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, Tesla's there, I figured.
Yeah, there was 3 of them.
Okay.
So I don't know whether there was something, well, nobody knows why.
Yeah.
So we're trying to figure that out. The environmental should be pretty well wrapped up, the historical, all the other things that will go into making a decision. Hopefully we can make a decision here in the next month or 2. So, anyway, that's where we're at. So hopefully, I'm kind of excited to see what Michael's got to show us, and the courthouse will be in a position fairly shortly. Corps working on making sure that we've got good estimates on that stuff up to date, so that we're not blindsided by something in the future, but we'll get in a position where we can bid the roof on the courthouse. So, then comes the other things, including the elevator, so, yeah. So that's what we're looking forward to, everybody. Anybody have anything else? A motion to adjourn? Andy moves, Russ seconds. All those in favor signify by saying your aye.
Aye.